Hello, humans. It is Mr. Bell, and I want to kind of explain what I was talking about the other day in regards to how we're going to kind of make these masks. So I'm going to just use regular old mask, the ones that I had you make on Thursday and Friday. I really want you to have that skill. If you want to use that mask for this, you absolutely can. Or if you want to use a mask you have at home for this, that's fine. But like, I'm not really going to attach this yet to this mask. I don't know if I'm really going to fully attach it to the mask. But you want this shape that we're going to talk about in a second to be about the same size as your mask. So use a mask that you have or the one you made to kind of gauge how big you want to make this shape, which is kind of like an apple shape. This is going to be kind of the cheek part, and this is going to be kind of where your nose goes. So draw that shape out on a piece of cardboard. I'm using just a regular old Amazon box. Really any kind of cardboard will work, shoe box. And if you don't have any cardboard, really you can do this with paper. Cardboard just works a lot better. So, cut this out. Get this shape drawn. I'm using marker. I would suggest using pencil just so you can erase lines a little easier. But it doesn't really matter what the cardboard looks like. We're probably going to cover up most of this. This is going to be kind of the scaffold or the support of your mask, kind of the starting point for where you can go with these. I'm just kind of showing you these techniques, and then I want you to go with that and make this project your own. I'm going to explain how to make a very basic mask shape that is three-dimensional. And then I'm going to show you a technique of cardboard stacking that you can use to kind of make almost any shape in the world that you want to. These masks, if you have a crazy direction you want to go with these masks, that's awesome. Talk to me about it. I want to know what your idea is. We could probably go with it. But for those of you who want a little bit more direction, the assignment is to make an animal mask, an animal that maybe represents you, or an animal that is important to you, or it could really just be something simply as this is my favorite animal, or maybe you want to think about an animal mask that would look really interesting to make, not necessarily something important to you. You just really like the form of that animal. Probably a face. If you want to go with like an animal body, awesome. But probably going to go with an animal face. I think that I'm debating on going with a pig or with a frog. I don't know which. Okay, so you have your shape cut out. Now what you need to do is find somewhere about in the middle and about 1/3 over. So this would be like 1/3, 2/3, and then 3/3. So about 1/3 over and about in the middle. Put a little dot. And then do the same thing on the other side, about 1/3 over in the middle. Put a dot. It's not super important that they're super accurate, just around that area. And then go ahead and draw a straight line that goes out to the edge, kind of like that, like a diagonal cut. Then, that's right, take your handy dandy scissors, cut down to the edge of that dot. Same thing on the other side. And then you have this shape. What you want to do is kind of bend it. Pick which side. I'm going to go with the side that I didn't draw on to be the top one. So I'm going to bend this from this dot to this dot. I'm going to bend it in without ripping it, but I'm going to give it a good bend. Let it go back. Then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to give that a good bend. Then I'm going to go on the other side and give it a good bend. Right around like that. So you'll end up with shape kind of goes like this. And this guy moves together. Then what you want to do is I'm going to use a piece of tape. If you don't want to use tape for this part, you don't really have to. Really, this can be done with just any tape and a piece of cardboard. Those are the only things you kind of need. For this, you can use glue for this part of the process too, though. So I have this shape. This is going to be kind of stuck. Here's my face. This is going to be stuck here on my lower jaw. So all we really want to do now is get that basic form. So I'm going to kind of push these. I'm going to find an edge like that, and then I'm going to fold this in just a little bit. Bam. Then I'm going to put my piece of tape on the inside. And voila. Do the same thing on the other side, like so. Give this guy a little bend. Bam. And then I'm going on the inside because I don't want this tape to be visible, but I don't want to have to rip it off when I'm done. Ultimately, this tape won't really be necessary to hold this mask together, but this is just the very, very basic first part. So I have my lower mask. This is, again, going to go on my lower jaw, and my eyes will be right above where my hand is. So I'm going to put this to the side for now. This is going to be the basic structure of my mask. I'm going to be able to fit my nose and my mouth in here, and it'll basically cover up the real mask that I'm going to wear underneath this. So putting that to the side. Now I want to show you a technique called, I don't really know what it's called. I don't think there's really an official name. I call it cardboard stacking. And really all you need is a sheet of cardboard and a pencil or marker or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to build out, I got to make a decision now. To make a pig or to make a frog. To make a pig or to make a frog. Frog. I'm going to go with a frog. So what I want to do first is I'm envisioning the frog, kind of not maybe having this be like the bottom part of a frog, but maybe making this into like a frog's full head. So I'm thinking I'm going to put eyes here and another eye here, and then maybe like a frog mouth here and a frog nose here. So what I'm going to do is I think I want to push out these eyes. Frogs have big buggy eyes, so I'm going to make a couple shapes of cardboard that kind of give the illusion of it being like these eyes are sticking out. So the first thing I need to do is, and I'm going to do this kind of step, I'm going to do this over and over again. There really is no limit to how many times you can do this and how many like layers or how far you want something to like really be pushed out. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to make a shape that's about this, like that'll fit on the edges of this shape right here. So I'm going to sketch that out. It'll be maybe about that big. Yeah, I think that'll good. And if I'm not right and it doesn't fit, I can always cut off a little bit more. Remembering back to your fourth grade or second grade art classes, draw these shapes on the edge of your cardboard. Save yourself a little bit of grief. I should have actually drawn this a little farther over. I'm going to cut this bad boy out. Bam. So I have a shape. Let's see if it fits. Yeah, I think that might make the beginnings of a good frog eye shape. But I want this shape to be the same on this side that I do on this side. So I'm simply, before I glue anything, I'm going to cut out a bunch of these. I'm going to trace this guy so I can have two identical shapes. Bam. Bam. Good enough. So remember, we're diving into the idea of sculpture, of making things three-dimensional. So oftentimes a lot of that involves really loose sketches two-dimensionally. But really when I do those, I just don't care about what they look like. I'm just trying to get those shapes made. I'm really thinking about being three-dimensional before I think about being two-dimensional. So I have two things that are about the same exact size. I'm going to start building out two identical things, and this is going to be the eyes of my frog right here. So I'm going to take this guy for the next step. I'm going to take the same template, the same thing that I just traced, and I am going to trace it again. So now I have the shape of this, but I want it to be sticking out. I want it to appear kind of like it's a stacked pyramid almost, or like a ziggurat. So I want it to get smaller. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to draw that same shape, only I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to make it fit in there. So now I'm going to cut this shape out. Ignoring that shape that I made first, cutting out the inside shape. Bam. Now I'm going to see what this looks like on top of it. Yeah, so I think that's about the amount of like how tall I want it to get versus if I wanted to make it like get taller and taller, I'd probably make this a little bigger and really push that. But I think this is going to look good for my frog eye. So I'm going to need this shape on the other side. So once again, I'm going to trace this bad boy. Bam. Bam. And now I have, after I cut this guy out, remember, cardboard cutting can be pretty messy. Do yourselves a favor, do your parents and guardians a favor, clean up. Clean up after you're done. I know that I will get in trouble if I don't. Okay, so I have basically the beginnings of my frog's eyes. I'm gonna put this guy here, like so. I'm gonna end up gluing this guy here, like so. And I think that's gonna be a pretty good start for the eyes. I think I'm probably gonna make them a little jumpy outer more. I think I'm gonna do that 2 more times. And then I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm gonna do his mouth. But I'm gonna use the same, the same technique to do this over and over and over again. Like if you wanted to make an elephant's tusk, seriously, you can just do this over and over, and you can stack these out. If you glue them enough, you can stack them out to be pretty long. I'm going to do a little bit more of that on this guy, but for now, this is as far as I really want you guys to be able to get today. Is I want you to I want you to pick what kind of animal you're going to do, or if you have a crazy idea that it's not an animal, say you want to make a plague mask, you can use this technique to do that, okay? Really, really, really want you guys to be making your own things and not copying what I'm doing. So, again, expectation for today is you make this shape, okay? If you don't have the tape and you do have glue, you can glue it here. If you only have tape, you can tape this here, and then maybe ultimately you're going to tape this down. This is not going to be ultimately what this really looks like. We are going to put skin on these things, and I will briefly show you what that's going to look like so you can be thinking of that down the line. But I'm going to glue these things here, and they're going to be sticking out. Maybe I'll put another one in there. I don't know. But then we're going to take another piece of cardboard, and we're going to skin it. I'm going to strip this layer right here. Take my handy scissors, get it started. So you start taking apart this cardboard and getting thin sheets like this, and then ultimately, like say this is glued down here, this is glued down here, we're going to start taking these strips and gluing them over them. So they're going to ultimately appear to be smooth because we're going to put skin on these masks after we're done building the kind of underlying structure.